Welcome back, guys, to episode 4 of the Dogs and Knowles podcast. I'm Hunter.
I'm Dylan.
And we are back for our only episode this week before Saturday. This is going to be like a catch-up episode. And we're just going to it's going to be our big playoff rankings, talk about rivalry week is what's really going to steal the show.
Yep. Big show.
Already the final week of college football already. It's insane how fast it goes. And hard to believe that Thanksgiving is just, as of this day recording, or whenever you're watching it, is November 23rd, 2022. So already just a couple days from Thanksgiving.
Yeah.
Insane.
Couple days. It's tomorrow.
That's
crazy. That's crazy to think about, man. It's that quick. We're really chugging along here.
It's kind of depressing how how fast it goes by.
I know, it moves by way too quick. The regular season just does not.
It's funny because it feels like college football regular season goes by so much faster than NFL. NFL, it feels like we still got we still have 5 weeks left, 5 or 6 weeks left of the regular season.
They keep going into Christmas. You know what I mean? Like they play New Year's. I think they play the week after New Year's now too, huh?
I don't know if they go that far. I think that the playoffs do start. I think the playoffs start the week after that.
Yeah, they do. They do play on New Year's though. I went last year.
Yeah. Well, we're not here for the NFL though, so. But if we were, they would want us to be talking about college football today.
All right. Well, let's get straight into it then.
Yes. So, yeah, we got a packed show today. But we will start, since this is, as of this podcast, it is Wednesday, November 23rd, like I said. So we'll be heading into the college football playoff rankings that just were announced in the newest edition last night. The top 4 stayed the same. Georgia, Ohio State, Michigan, TCU. LSU stayed at 5. USC moved to 6. We'll leave that at right now. I believe Bama still is moved to 7. Clemson to 8. Am I correct?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you are.
So, initial thoughts early?
Initial thoughts early is the committee really likes LSU. They really, really like LSU. They really like their win over Alabama, which, call me crazy, to me still is not.
Bama still looked very sluggish last week.
Exactly. They did not. They should have ran down Austin Peay, who is it? Are they even an FCS school or are they D2?
They're FCS.
Okay.
They
won 35-0 at home, which
34.
34. Sorry, which while still killing them, they did not blow them out.
I think it was 7-0 with 4 minutes to go still in the first quarter. And granted, that's not a lot, but I didn't watch the game obviously because why would I waste my time doing that? But Austin Peay made a goal line stop. They hung around, I guess, in the game till about a little after the start of the second quarter is when Bama started opening up. But continue.
Yeah, I mean, the biggest thing really to talk about is the path for the 3 teams sitting right outside the 4 picture. So LSU, Southern Cal, and Clemson, just because I don't think Alabama really has a shot because they can't go to the conference championship. So whatever happens, they're going to finish with 1 less win than everybody next to them.
True. Now, they did the same shit in 2017, but they only had 1 loss then.
To be fair, that year they did have one. Yeah, they had 1 loss, and they were sitting at the 5 spot. They weren't sitting at the 7.
The fact that there's still a possibility that they can get in is not happy.
You would need total chaos.
I think Clemson. I still don't know how because I don't think they can. No, because Clemson has a better shot of jumping.
Yeah. Well, because I think depending on what happens this week, Clemson could jump them. If they play close with Auburn and Clemson kills South Carolina, Clemson probably jumps them.
They should just jump him regardless.
They should have. I mean, they're 10-1. Bama's 9-2, and I mean Clemson's loss is to Notre Dame, who keeps rising. I think
True,
Notre Dame's
and
15 now.
keep ahead, and we'll talk a little more about this in a second. But the playoff committee, they keep it's not a whole lot, but they keep adding one or two teams in every week or so from the ACC.
Mm-hmm.
That Clemson. It seems as like they're just a Clemson boosting team.
So
I don't know.
if we're looking at the ACC honestly, there's 3 teams that should be ranked. It's Clemson, Florida State, and South Carolina. Those are the only teams that
Two.
deserve
South
to be in the
Carolina
top
is
25.
not in the ACC.
Oh, I'm sorry, North Carolina. I meant North Carolina. It's Clemson, North Carolina, and Florida State. They should all be ranked.
Yes.
Outside of that, no, get them out of here. Louisville is.
South
They're
Carolina
ranked-
needs to be ranked ahead of them. They're going to do that.
I'm telling you right now, the committee really wanted Florida to be ranked. If they would have beat Vanderbilt, they would have been ranked 25 over
100%.
Louisville.
Well, that's why, and we'll talk again about it a little bit.
Mm-hmm.
Why
When we get into the Florida State matchup, but
that them losing to Vanderbilt, and you could just see it coming. I mean, it was like 30 degrees then in Nashville. A lot of Florida fans there to watch Anthony Richardson throw a Hail Mary 70 yards into the stadium, or into the bleachers. So, but we're not talking about Florida right now. So, but yeah, don't know why they keep ranking teams like Louisville, and maybe just pull up the rankings here.
Texas, 7-4 Texas, but the committee really likes Texas. I'm not that surprised about that ranking.
No. Here, this is actually straight from the site. Look at that. I was a little surprised to see. It's still a little surprised to see Utah is still like in the top 15.
Mm-hmm.
Notre Dame. I'm surprised Notre Dame and you guys didn't maybe hop them.
That's what I was thinking would happen, but
Keep an eye on Kansas State too. They got a decent game this weekend against Kansas. We're not going to really talk about that one at all, but they're sitting there at 12. That is a big booster right now for TCU, because TCU needs all the help they can get, because it still seems like us against the world at this point. I do think, though, that Tennessee lost. By the way, since we didn't get a chance, I just want to come out and say that as a Georgia fan and a member of the Twitter society who gets to deal with Tennessee fans all day long, watching them get their brains blown in by a team that Georgia went up to, same stadium, same players, and beat them by 41, to watch them go up as 22.5-point favorites and lose by 25, and not just lose by 25, give up 63 points, 606 yards, let Spencer Rattler throw for more touchdowns in one game than he had in five SEC games or 7 SEC games? Completely inexcusable. T's and P's to Hendon Hooker, because I thought he might have been, if he finished the year strong, he could have been a case for a first-round pick.
There was a good chance he was going to New York this year, too.
The karma, the sweet, sweet karma. They were talking shit last week when they were trying to defend themselves for scoring with 2 minutes left in the game against Missouri. And then they were talking shit right after the TCU-Michigan games when TCU-Michigan were squeaking by, and they were saying how they were the next best team. Should be in. This is a clear cut. They were like not even concerned about this. And then they got their ass whooped right from the start. The football gods were praising down in Columbia, South Carolina that night. And it was beautiful. By the way, what a scene that was. And it's been a rough year for South Carolina.
It was just surprising to me.
We'll talk about a little more South Carolina down the road in this episode, but what a win. And as bad as a season as it feels like it's been, there's still a possibility that they could finish the year 9-4. Because they have, and if they finish, let alone 9-4, forget about how they started the year and how poorly it's been for Spencer Rattler. If they can pull off an ass whooping against Tennessee, if they can somehow go into Clemson, South Carolina this weekend, or Greenville, wherever they are.
Yeah, it's Clemson, I think. I think
they're in Greenville. I think Greenville is the city that Clemson's in.
Okay.
But if they can go in and beat the team that they haven't beaten since, let me see.
Let me double check with my sources.
Yeah, let Dylan find that.
Yeah.
Here, I have the Palmetto Bowl stats right here, actually. They haven't beaten them since 2013. If they can go in to Clemson and beat them, they might as well build a statue of Shane Bieber, because good God, they may not get any better than that.
Yeah.
And I think, and it was so surprising to see how just well they played after getting their shit kicked in by Florida.
They got manhandled in that Florida game. They didn't score an offensive touchdown at all.
No, they scored some fluky punt touchdown.
And then a week later, Spencer Rattler throws 6 touchdowns.
6 touchdowns. They scored 9 touchdowns in total.
Mm-hmm.
The only times they didn't, they punted once and they ended the half.
Yep.
So, and they did the same thing Georgia did. They never let Tennessee get back in it. And they did it a different way, obviously, because of the weather, but because I think if it didn't rain in Georgia, Georgia would have put up 45 on them. So, but it would have been like a 45-6 game.
Yeah.
But they just never let them back in it. They never even thought about it. They never took their foot off the gas. And kudos to them. And by the way, they should be ranked for that. Although what's hurting them, the Missouri loss is gross.
And that Florida loss.
The Florida loss is a killer, especially now that Florida sucks still. Welcome back to irrelevance. And they got quarterbacks that are rapping the N-word.
Quarterbacks rapping the N-word, and it looks very likely that Anthony Richardson could leave for the NFL after this year, which, as crazy as that sounds, if I was him and I'm projected to go like day 1 or 2, I'm taking it because there's a good chance he's not able to replicate that.
Well, shit. If Will Levis is a top 10 pick, Anthony Richardson ain't far behind him.
That's what I'm saying. Yeah.
So
you got like people like Mel Kiper who still have Anthony Richardson as a top 4 quarterback prospect, which to me I'm just like I don't see it, man. I really don't see how.
I love Mel.
Yeah,
I do like him. I think he is very good at job, him and Todd McShay, but
yeah,
I just don't see how they can still defend Will Levis and Anthony Richardson. You take their, like, I don't know what's the word, not stature, like their height, arm strength, weight, all that fun stuff like this. But you look at just what they've, like their stats and what they've done on the field, game tape, because I think that's the most important thing. How can you justify what they've done on the field and still say that we'll say Anthony Richardson's like a day 2, maybe early day 3 guy?
Yeah.
How can I would see Richardson, if he goes this year, be a day 3 guy. If I was him, I would stay another year. Problem is they have some quarterback. They do have a freshman, I think, who's decent. And I've seen him. I watched him when I was up there for the Eastern Washington game. Didn't look bad. Granted, the competition stinks, but I mean,
not bad to teach a guy with that though.
But I mean, you look at like Will Levis. He's had an atrocious year. Now, granted, I mean he's dealt with some injuries, but atrocious year. He did have some good throws though against Georgia, but I just don't see it. You can't put up 109 yards of passing on Vanderbilt and expect to do anything.
There's a lot of things I'm disagreeing with here. Yeah, because Mel Kiper has C.J. Stroud and Will Levis over Bryce Young in his quarterback prospect rankings, and I'm just like, I understand Stroud over Young because of the size for Young, all right? Because he is barely 6 feet and barely 160 pounds.
I mean, if that's your best argument for why Will Levis should be a top 10 pick, then shit. I have a buddy that's 6 foot something. I mean, let's get him in the NFL.
Put some pads on. Let's get going.
Yeah, right? I mean, you can't use that as your best argument of why he should be there. Can't.
So before we get too distracted, let's get into some of the actual games this weekend. Start with.
Oh, I was just going to say anything else with the playoff rankings.
Only thing I would like to add is the fact that with Kansas State jumping up as high as they are, because they're at 12 now. So in a hypothetical situation where TCU makes the playoff, the Big 12 representative in the New Year's Six is probably going to be Kansas State.
Hey, good for them. I will say, I think this is obviously every week's a must-win week, but Michigan cannot afford to lose this weekend.
No.
If they lose this weekend, there's no shot that they get in. There's a better shot. There's a better pathway for Ohio State to get in. Shout out Blake, who loves our fellow Buckeye. Finally talking about him.
We'll talk about the Buckeyes today, Blake.
Actually, hit up the last episode just dropped today. Like and subscribe on YouTube for Dogs and Knowles podcast, or Knowles and Dogs podcast. Excuse me.
And Jason. Don't forget Jason, because I talked to him yesterday. He really wants us to talk about those Buckeyes, and he also wants to be a guest on the show. So we'll get you on here eventually, Jason.
Hit that subscribe button, Jason. Fellow Buckeye. Just kidding.
He played for him.
Ohio State, funny story, though. I have yet to see. I went to the national titles. Something we'll talk about later, or just off the air. But I found I looked up that national championship roster. I didn't find his name. So unless he's going by a different name, I didn't find him. Anyway, unless he wasn't playing. But he said he was, so I don't know. Anyway, that's not the point. The point is, Ohio State has a better pathway to making it into the playoff, even with a loss. Now, it has to be a close loss. They can't just get their shit kicked in by J.J. McCarthy, because J.J. McCarthy's not good. But they can afford a loss because of that Notre Dame. Yeah, Notre Dame has saved a bunch. Notre Dame is like the biggest outlier for half the teams still in the race, because they beat the shit out of Clemson. But if they beat USC this weekend, you eliminate USC. You make that Clemson loss. You make Clemson's loss look a hell of a lot better, which means they're going to move up, and then it's going to make that Ohio State loss even better, because Ohio State took care of business with them.
Yeah.
I'm trying to think if there's one more team.
The only other team I can think of that talk about is maybe Penn State, because Penn State, to me, is the strangest team in the top 25, because if we look at it from a blank perspective, the two ranked teams they've played this year, they got murdered by Michigan. They got more or less.
They blew the Ohio State game. They blew that one.
The thing is with the Ohio State game is they were leading until all of a sudden Ohio State was almost like a bigger kid at a playground and just pushed them over and said, "Get out of the way."
Oh no! They woke up from their nap and were like, "Oh shit! Wait, we're Ohio State. We need to do business." Now, granted, it was a noon kickoff at Happy Valley, or in Happy Valley, so you never know what's going to happen up there. But,
I think was it their whiteout game too?
Stripe out. Their whiteout was Minnesota.
Yeah. Gotcha. But I mean, they're just a strange team to me, because I don't think they're really that good.
No, but Sean Clifford's had a good year, and if they win, they might be in line for. They're still in the hunt for a New Year's Six, possibly. Yeah. Especially, they would get to the Rose Bowl, but they fuck the Rose Bowl. Shout out, just because they keep their constant. Their constant traditions are getting in the way of expanding the playoff, or they're pissed off about it.
Yeah.
Anyway, Ohio State and Michigan both make it somehow. Penn State to the Rose Bowl. Anyway.
Not an impossible scenario, but we'll move forward.
Yeah, I don't think there's anything else. You're going to find out a lot this week. Keep an eye on Oregon, just because, for resume builders, especially Georgia. Shout out to the Ducks. Love my boys, Dan Lanning. By the way, Utah, it's the third time, aside from the Utah game, or that USC game, where they can't close a game out. They were given every opportunity. I watched that entire game against Oregon.
Yeah.
Cam Rising, once again, squandered it. So, we'll move on to Rivalry Week. I probably said that wrong.
We'll start with your game.
We'll start with the Governor's Cup in the state of Georgia, or as we like to call it, some clean old-fashioned hate. Mm-hmm. Well, it's more of a just a hate and an ass-whooping tournament or time for recently. Georgia Tech. It's in Athens, Senior Day. Dogs are looking to finish the year perfect for the second year in a row. By the way, they are now the third team in the SEC in the last 40 years to go back-to-back seasons undefeated. Hasn't happened since the 08-09 Bama team. So I believe Kirby Smart was on that team. So
I think he was the defensive coordinator on that team, wasn't he?
Yes, he was with Saban. He's been with Saban since Miami, the Dolphins.
Yeah.
Even before that.
I think wasn't he a analyst on the LSU team?
He was with LSU.
Back coach?
Yeah. Anyway, so Georgia looking to, like I said, finish the year strong, go 12-0. Mm-hmm. God, it feels so good to say that. Maybe I'm just getting too spoiled, but no, you know what? I'm not, because I take every game for granted and like it's a national title game. I mean, I was on my feet screaming at the TV when they played Kentucky, even though I knew that it was going to be a low-scoring, just gross game.
Not fun to watch.
It was just a boring game, but you do what you had. You got to win ugly. At this point for them, it's just a win is a win. So now they're 35.5-point favorites. I don't know what the line is, like over-unders. I had my action, or my it's a noon kickoff. Like I said, it's on ESPN. We get Dan Orlovsky calling the game, so love Dan.
Not bad.
Over-unders 48.5, and you can get Georgia money line. You hop on it now at minus 100,000. So,
I actually think Georgia Tech has strangely shown a little bit of life the past couple of weeks.
I think since they hired that intern, or their intern has kind of brought them. Now, granted, if somehow Georgia Tech could pull off the upset, which it won't, they would be bowl eligible. So I guess that's. But they're not going to. It's Senior Day. It's going to be a sold out crowd again.
And
I mean, it's going to, the place is going to be rocking. Final home game of the year. Looking ahead, right before they go to Atlanta, where it's going to be. And I don't see them doing any look aheads. I don't think Kirby Smart. Excuse me.
Not with Georgia Tech on the.
No, with Georgia Tech, it's a big rivalry game. It helps. It always helps, especially these rivals, like these letdown rival spots, especially as of late. Kirby Smart, being a Georgia alumni, he's played in these games before. Yeah, he knows what the rivalries are all about. He knows what's at stake. He's not going to let these guys just fall asleep at the wheel. And I know they're not either, because I think that maybe they kind of want to remind. They just want to. They're going to take care of business. I think. I wouldn't be surprised if Bennett's gone by the third quarter.
Yeah,
I would not be surprised. Now, what we can't do, and I don't see it happening, is just kind of sleepwalk it. But I think they won't. If people are looking towards last week as like but they just went through a gauntlet. They just went through their gauntlet of at Florida. We'll say at Florida because it was in Jacksonville.
In Jacksonville.
So you had that.
That's a Gator City.
Actually, have you ever been to the game?
I've never been to the game. I know it's 50-50, but...
Well, no, I was just there.
Yeah.
This year. It was 65-35 Georgia fans.
Yeah.
And Georgia fans invade. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, I was always going to say is, I know the city itself, the majority of people who live in the city, it's a Gator city. Yeah, it's a Florida city. But what I was going to say is that Florida fans are probably one of the biggest fair weather fans in the sport.
Yeah.
The second their team was down at halftime, 90% of that fan base was like, I'm ready to go home. I don't care.
As someone who bravely stood in this Florida student section the entire game, I can attest to that. There was a group of college guys that were hitting the casino at halftime because they were. But again, that's not the point. Point is, Georgia. I'd like to see the passing game a little more consistent. Short yardage game. Apparently, we suck at short yardage now. So we got stood up at the goal line 3 times last week. I want to see us get the tight ends involved more. There was a play last week where Darnell Washington, who's 6'7", 250 pounds, was matched up at the goal line, 1-on-1, with nobody, no safety help, with a cornerback who I gotta say was no bigger than 6'1".
Yeah.
If that. And Bennett, I think we were at like the 3 or 4 yard line, and Bennett didn't even look at him. He went to Ladd, tried to get to McConkey, who was incomplete. But like you gotta find, he's a matchup. He will, if you just throw it up. And by the way, he overthrows Darnell Washington more than anybody else, which I don't understand how you do that.
Big guy.
You gotta look at him. And really, Bowers hasn't really been anything. He wasn't really anything last week or the week before. So again, he did catch. He had a couple catches. He did catch the touchdown, but or against Mississippi State. But I want to see us get the tight ends involved more. Like that's our offense. Because we still don't got A.D. Mitchell back. He's supposed to be back soon. But you got to get your playmakers involved, I think. The bright spot was last week, and I think it's going to carry over this week, we rushed for 247 yards on the ground. Kenny McIntosh had 143 of it. That's a good spot because I think we hadn't had a game like that yet where we just dominated on the run. So, which is good. It's actually positive, too, because Kirby Smart is giving you ways like, hey, we're not opening up the playbook, and we're going to just slowly, like a python, just slowly, methodically kill you. So, so they're going to win. I think final score is probably like I think the under hits. This is an under game.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, because it's going to be like a 41. It's probably going to be like a 41, maybe 6 game. Maybe they get 2 field goals. So
as crazy as it is, I think the final score is going to be like 45-17 because I think
I don't know.
I think Tech gets off a couple good drives early on.
See, they did this last year where they had a couple of good drives and then they stalled. Because it's going to be for Tech, I'm telling you, because Georgia's going to get up early and Tech's going to all of a sudden, and it's a great luxury to have. And you're dominant when they're already going for 4 on 4th down in the first quarter. It's going to happen, and we're not going to let it. It happened last week on Kentucky's first drive, and they didn't get it. The defense which is now back up at the top in scoring defense, because we're always number 1. They're not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
So this is a big rivalry game. They're going to wake up senior day. They're going to show up and show out. Bennett might have a big game because it's senior day. So last time he's in Stanford, I look for a big game. So I think it's like 41-6 is the final.
I do think Georgia Tech gets off a couple runs just because.
But can they finish though? Because Georgia's red zone defense is really good too. So
I do think they'll get one off at least.
I wouldn't be surprised. Because
I do think as much
as... But it's not until late.
As like you're saying, it is a big rivalry, right?
Yeah.
So this matters for Tech too. I feel like this almost matters more for them. So I think you will be seeing a lot of those players putting their absolute all into scoring on Georgia.
But will it matter?
It won't matter. No. They're not going to win the game.
I don't think they're going to. They might score one late in the 4th.
Mm-hmm.
and it might be a fluky bust or something in coverage, but again, I don't see anything happening.
I'll tell you right now, I think if Georgia wins.
You think they get double digits?
I mean,
You think they get double digits?
I think they can.
You think they will, though?
They'll score 10. They'll score 10 points.
Okay. All right.
They'll score 10 points.
It's fine.
I'm just saying for it, if Georgia wins the coin toss, they're going to kick on sides to start the second half. They've done it 4 times this year to start the second half of games. They love kicking onside to start the second half because you don't expect it, even though you know they're going to do it.
Yeah.
So
right.
that's how they scored on Florida State. That's how they scored their only touchdown.
Yeah.
They kicked it onside.
Yeah. All right. Well, we'll move on because we've still got a bunch of games else to talk about. So we'll move to the next game, which is the Sunshine Showdown. Is that what it's called?
Yeah,
All
it's
right.
called that. We just call it Florida State here. But this game we're going to be talking about a little bit. But so Florida State's going to go into this game 9-point favorites. I think
Did the line drop?
It says maybe it went up because on here it says 9. It may have gone up to 9.5 now.
It's been 9.5 since like Saturday.
Okay. Yeah.
Or since Sunday, so when the lines open.
Yeah, so it's a 9.5-point favorite over Florida. They're going for their first win against Florida since 2017. The first win at home against Florida since 2016.
That's wild.
I mean, it's a little bit misleading because there's only been 3 games played between the schools. Florida's on a 3-game winning streak. It's not like they're on a 5-game or 4. It's 3 games. All right. Those were the 3 Dan Mullen teams.
Yeah.
So.
Because they didn't play 2020 either.
They didn't play 2020, and 2017 we won. So we lost in 2018, 2019, and 2021. In 2021 we lost because they took out our quarterback for 2 quarters. So we had to try to get back into the game, and we just couldn't, even when Emory Jones was giving us the ball every time he touched the field.
They gave it to Dameon Pierce last week and just or last year and just kind of here.
Yep.
Finish it for us.
First time they did that to him all season. But I think going into this game, Florida State, I think they're going to win this game. I'm going to start out with that.
I do too.
Last week they played against a Louisville team that, like you said, some people were expecting a little bit of a letdown, even if they didn't, maybe they don't cover. They murdered them. They absolutely killed them.
Lafayette or Louisiana. You said Louisville.
Oh, sorry. Louisiana.
Won. Shout out Louisville.
Louisiana, the Raging Cajuns, they murdered them just like I said they would. They had their backups in the third quarter. So Tate Rodemaker and a couple of the guys on the second string squad came in, and just like the first round, I mean, that Louisiana team was just not on the same talent level, coaching level. They're just Florida State's on a roll right now. They look really good. They're playing well. I think the spread is 9.5, but I mean
that's a lot.
That's a big point spread, especially for a team that has not beaten Florida.
Team that hasn't beaten Florida, and a team that's getting a Florida team that just got beat handily. Score didn't indicate how bad really they lost. They got it close against Vanderbilt, but you look for Florida to bounce back a little bit here.
You would expect them to bounce back. The only question was going to be, because I think you probably saw it too, Anthony Richardson was dropping locker room stuff for Florida State to, get motivated, saying stuff like, when we win this Friday. Just going to say this right now, you should never be saying that in a game that's supposed to be close. Don't be saying that.
I will say also, and I'm not saying, I just think this game's going to be closer. I think Florida covers. Excuse me. Florida has done decently this year. Mm-hmm. I'm going to pull up at bouncing back after losses a little bit this year. Yeah. I mean, you remember just about a couple weeks ago, they got blasted by Georgia, and then you're like, oh crap, they're going to College Station when A&M still had a little bit to play for, and they took care of business there. They handily beat them. And I know A&M isn't anything this year. I know they're really bad.
They did have 30 players out with the flu.
They did.
Yeah.
I will just say not every team just walks into Kyle Field unless you're UMass when there's nobody there.
Yeah.
You don't walk into a sold out or damn near sold out crowd of over 100,000 plus and just take care of A&M like that. And then they did the same thing to South, and then they just beat a South Carolina team by 32. Regardless of it, they don't do a terrible job at bouncing back. I just think it's a rivalry week. I think Richardson, as inconsistent as he is, look for him to have a decent game. I know Florida State's run defense isn't anything crazy, but again, can you stop the run?
Let me pull up their stats real quick because I think actually Florida State has been good against the run this year, if I'm right.
What about mobile quarterbacks, though?
They beat.
What did Uyunglele do against you guys?
He just threw the ball.
Did he? He didn't run it really at all?
Well, Will Shipley killed us, I'll say that.
And so they still have ETN and what's the other guy's name? Jeez. Let me find him. And Johnson. Mm-hmm. And they can run the ball. So, you do not – if Florida can get the running game going early, especially quiet the crowd and keep – because you guys – your offense is way better on paper, on the field. The stats don't lie. Mm-hmm. Jordan Travis is a way better quarterback right now than Anthony Richardson. But if they can just establish a run game, and this is what they did at A&M to quiet the crowd. And again, A&M's nothing crazy, but again, they did it to South Carolina too. If they can just keep them off the field, quiet the crowd, because it's going to be hopping. Doak is going to be rolling. Yeah. Especially Saturday night. They can, if they go down the field early and score a touchdown, they can make a statement right there and be like, hey, just be ready for a 4-quarter fight. That's all I'm going to say. Yeah, you can continue.
So their rushing defense isn't anything special. They do have the 4th-ranked passing defense in football.
But Florida doesn't pass the ball a whole lot. If they don't need to pass the ball, they don't have to. They won't. They don't need to do. Mm-hmm. Like they don't. If they want to run the ball first and then set it up for play action, because they want to get Richardson moving out, get him out of the pocket like bootlegs and stuff. So if he needs to, he can just scramble and run. Yeah. What he can't do, and same thing with Jordan Travis. I don't know. I'm looking at Jordan Travis, four picks. Turnovers is going to be a big story in this game. It's a big story for any game, but I just think the turnover battle is going to be big in this game because these two teams usually always play each other really close, and you know it more than I do. Yeah. But it just feels like whatever team makes the most mistakes, whether it's penalties and crucial spots, turnovers, not scoring touchdowns, settling for field goals, is going to be the one that ends up paying the price.
Yeah. So I think the biggest thing is when it comes to Florida's offense is them, like you said, as good as they are running the football, they love to just, like in the middle of the game, stop running the ball. The second, Florida, yeah. If you watch a lot of their offensive, like their games, their offense, the second they feel like they're possibly the other team's offense is going to start running away with it, they will start throwing the ball and they will turn the ball over because as good as Anthony Richardson is as an athlete, he still struggles as a passer of the football. Yeah. He has a great arm, but he does not have the best accuracy on it. He doesn't have the best ball placement. So
he overthrows people all the time.
He's got a huge problem overthrowing people or just throwing the ball way too hard at the wrong time.
And I've been to a couple Florida games this year. Mm-hmm. I went to the LSU game. It happened in this game. It happened in the Georgia game where he had guys open down the field. And I'm talking down the field and with separation, and he was overthrowing them. Like the Georgia game, he missed 2 guys that would have scored touchdowns against us. Yep. 2 breakdowns in coverage, he missed them wide open. They've been walking, and he hit the one, but he missed a couple more that he could have had that would have made it a different game. Yeah. I will say flip side. and I know you know this more than I do, but we talk about this all the time, setting the tone early and just coming out and establishing yourself saying, hey, we're here. We're not here to mess around. If Florida State, we'll say they don't win say Florida gets the ball first and doesn't do anything. If Florida State can just turn around and go down the field and score and send a message early and be like, hey, we're not here to mess around with you guys. We're the better team. We're going to get the crowd into it. If they could send a message early and just be like I said, just setting the tone, that might go a long way as well.
Yeah.
Especially in a rivalry game like this. Now, can they keep it going for 4 quarters? It's going to be an interesting game. I think this is going to be a fun game. Is it on ABC or ESPN? Oh, it's on ABC.
Yeah, it's on ABC Friday night at 7:30.
I think also Florida's defense, I want to see how they match up against your receivers, especially Johnny Wilson. Is that his name?
Yes.
How are they going to do that? Can they get pressure on Jordan Travis? It's going to be a fun game because 2 teams that I don't want to say different stories of their season, but really it's like it's still always going to be a toss-up, it feels like. And these games are always close.
Yeah.
Always close. I'm looking at head-to-heads the last couple of years. I mean, the last time you guys won by 16.
But I'll be honest, that 2017 16-point game, it looks a lot closer than it felt.
Yeah.
That 2017, because that was Jimbo Fisher's last game as the Florida State head coach. And even with all that stuff going around the program, Florida had completely hit rock bottom that year. What was his name? Whoever that head coach was at the time, I forget his name.
It was, I know who it is.
McElwain.
Yeah, Jim McElwain. Yep.
He got fired for off the field stuff, and it was a complete mess there.
Yeah.
So outside of
go. Yeah.
But outside of that, I think the biggest story going in is because the biggest thing you need to know about Mike Norvell as a head coach, when he comes in to start the season, he talks about 2 teams. He talks about Miami and Florida. So I think the biggest thing is Florida State is going to want to win this game. This is something none of the seniors on this team have beaten Florida. A lot of these guys were on that 2019 squad that got killed by Florida at home, in Gainesville. So there's guys on the squad who want to win this game more than they want to go to a New Year's Six bowl by chance or win a national. You know what I mean? They want to win this game.
I saw Florida State was projected to go to the Cheez-It Bowl this year.
I was saying that, but if Clemson made the playoff, they would be the ACC's automatic.
They would go to the Orange Bowl.
Yeah.
So I think big takeaway is, I think the crowd, for Florida, if they can take them out early, and again, this is all about early. Who's going to start the earliest and who's going to jump from the jump?
Yeah.
Because we say it all the time. Who's going to set the tone early? Because if Florida can set the tone early, it's going to carry the entire game. It should, in theory.
Yeah.
If Florida State can just take them out, get the crowd going early, and almost have Florida hit the panic button, that's going to be big for them. Quick side note, because I forgot to mention it, Georgia, if they win this week, they'll have this senior class this year will be the winningest senior class of all time at Florida or Georgia.
That's crazy.
So,
that's pretty good for them.
What do you think final score is going to be?
I think it is close, but I do think Florida State wins 38 to 31 around there.
So you think it's like a 4-quarter? You think they just score a touchdown late and cover?
I think.
Do you think so? You think Florida's going to cover though?
I do think Florida's going to cover, just because I think Anthony Richardson and that team is going to come into the game hot. Their offense can run the ball well. I think they keep it close, but I think Florida State, for the most part, are in the driver's seat. They comfortably win, but it looks closer on paper than the game really feels.
I think I like FSU to win. I think though it is like you said. I think it's like a 35. Like a 35-27 game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it is close. the entire game. I think it's almost like back and forth, but I think that Florida State's able to get a stop late.
Yeah.
Maybe like a couple stops late. But it could possibly be like a 42-20-21 game.
That's what I'm thinking. My biggest question will be because Florida's really struggled with stopping teams from running the ball on them, and that's one of the Florida State's offense's biggest strengths. So if Florida State can start right away, run the ball all over them, I don't see a way in which Florida can keep up with that offense.
Mm-hmm.
That's
why,
just how I see it.
Yeah, because you have to either look at it like Florida State's coming in with house money right now.
Mm-hmm.
They're just rolling. Florida coming off a horrible loss at Vanderbilt.
Exactly.
But it's also like then rivalry week, and this can be the same thing for any game this week.
Yeah.
Your record doesn't really matter this week. It's are you going to show up because you know your opponent's going to show up.
Mm-hmm.
Because when there's bad blood in the water for any rival, who's going to take that bad blood and use it as a positive thing and push forward? Because Florida State or Florida might just jump out and take care and just dominate from the get-go and just the entire game. I would put more money on Florida State to do that. But this has the making of either a bad blowout loss for Florida or a really close game.
Yeah.
I would lean more towards the close game just because I'm not going to shot at you, but I feel like recently it's not like this year more, like recently just over like a span of maybe like 3 years or so, it seems like teams don't have the worst issue going into Doak.
Yeah.
And taking care of it. I mean, Clemson this year was supposed to be a sleepy Saturday night game where they might slip up, and they handled their business for the most part there. And Clemson has been about as inconsistent of a really good football team as anybody. So, final thoughts of this game though before we move on.
Nope, I think we got everything covered.
Alrighty, sweet. So on to our next game of rivalry week. Got my papers. We will move to the Saturday slate. Actually, we'll touch this game because it's on Thanksgiving night. The Egg Bowl. We won't quickly spend a whole lot of time on it. Egg Bowl, Ole Miss versus Mississippi State. It's at Ole Miss this year. 2.5 is the line, favoring the Rebels. I think Ole Miss wins this game.
I agree with you.
Lane Kiffin, there was some Twitter nonsense going on earlier this week. Like some reporters, like some verified reporters were saying how like Lane Kiffin is like really in talks like of leaving the job, and then he started tweeting like that's not true and started like quote tweeting all of them and making fun of them. So I don't know what's going on.
Me neither.
I don't know. I don't know if he's just because now I'm seeing reports that Bill O'Brien might be the next head coach for Auburn.
I saw that too.
So he might not. So Lane Kiffin may just stay. So, and as bad as it looks like they got beat throughout the entire game against Arkansas. They had 703 yards of total offense. They ran the ball over 400 yards.
Yeah.
And still lost because of penalties and turnovers killed him. But this rivalry is insane. This game's always crazy. It's always a low scoring, which is wild because both teams have really good offenses. But I think that this is going to be a low scoring affair. I know Ole Miss defense isn't too bad. They've showed up in spots.
They can make stops.
They can get stops. They did it against Bama. Their offense kind of fell asleep at the wheel a little bit in the second half of that game. Egg Bowl's always wild. I think Ole Miss does win.
Me too.
But look for a wild game. Do they cover? Yes, because it's 2.5 right now.
Oh yeah, they do.
I would because they're getting that under that field goal mark. So
yeah, I would say they cover.
I look for what's his name? The running back for Ole Miss. Is it Quintez Johnson?
Or is you're talking about Evans?
Zach Evans and Johnson. I look for them to have a big game. Jackson Dart. Thing is, and again, I think this game more specifically, turnovers will be a huge game.
Yeah, especially for
turnovers and field goals. If especially red zone opportunities. If you're either team and you're not getting touchdowns and you're getting field goals, you're not going to win the game. I'll tell you that.
I think the biggest question for me is going to be with Mississippi State's quarterback Will Rogers, right?
Yeah.
Is he going to? Is his? Because really, their offense runs on his arm,
Yes.
and can he keep up with Ole Miss's rushing attack? Is going to be my question. Because
To
I
be
think,
fair,
yeah.
oh,
There you
continue.
go.
I was just going to quick side, and I just realized this. Mississippi State's run defense is very good.
Yeah.
They can. It's wild too because they run a weird defensive scheme where they really only have about, I think for the most part, 3 down linemen.
Mm-hmm.
They are able to hold. They held Georgia in check. They've held a lot of teams in check on the running game. This is why I think this has to be a big game for Jackson Dart because I don't know how reliant they're going to be. I think the Ole Miss, because this could be an Ole Miss game where, like in LSU, when they weren't able to run the ball.
Yeah.
I think whatever team establishes the run early is going to. If Ole Miss could just run the ball, I'll take Ole Miss all day. But
Yeah.
we'll see. Continue on though.
I think they will be able to run the ball just because they are so good at creating different looks where you can't really tell how they're running the ball because they were able to run the ball against Bama. And me and you had that conversation where we really didn't know would they be able to with Bama's defensive front. And they were able to figure out formations in which they more or less kept their running back completely away from guys like Will Anderson. Or, you know what I mean? Like they couldn't even be involved in the play. So
Exactly.
I think they still will be able to get yards with running the ball, but they're going to rely on Jackson Dart really for the first time this season where they're going to be sitting there and they're going to go, Jackson, we need you to take the keys and lead the offense. Even though I think they still be able to run the ball, I think that's what it's going to come down to is can Jackson Dart make a play when Will Rogers can't? If Ole Miss's defense makes a good enough stop.
Yeah, I think whoever can capitalize on stopping your other team, because Will Rogers is going to have his plays.
Yeah.
Can Jackson Dart do the same?
Yeah, I agree with you.
All right, so we'll move on after that game.
To
all right, so now we
the
move
game.
to the So now we'll move to the Saturday slate.
Move from that game to the game.
The game. Ohio State, Michigan, 2 versus 3, 11-0. Both of them come in.
Noon
Granted,
kickoff.
they had a noon kickoff. It's on Fox. It's the big game that everybody's been circling for most of the season now, since both teams don't play anybody. Aside from Notre Dame, apparently now in Penn State. This has the feeling of two things.
Mm-hmm.
It's in Columbus. This is the big part.
Yep.
This could be a one-score game late, or Ohio State's going to run them out of the building. And it's good. It's key to think about. Also, noting that. 1 second. The line is 7.5 Ohio State. Over under is at 56.5. Game's in Columbus, but the big thing is what's the status of the running backs for Michigan? Because Edwards, their backup, was banged up a little bit last week. I don't think he played at all. And what's the big status of Blake Corum? Because let's be honest, their offense runs through Corum.
Yeah.
I was watching another podcast earlier this week, and they were talking about the Michigan-Illinois game. And before Corum got hurt, he was already at 18 rushes for he had just hit almost 100.
Mm-hmm.
But he was on pace for that was just in the first half. He was on pace for 35 rushes or something crazy. Granted, again, because they didn't have their backup, but what's the status of him? Because if he can't go,
I don't know what they can do.
I can't look at a scenario where J.J. McCarthy is going to outduel C.J. Stroud.
I don't see it.
Even with Ohio State, because they're having their fair share of the offense being banged up. Smith and Jigba hasn't played all year. Travion Henderson and their backup are banged up too. I think Travion Henderson got banged up again last week in Maryland. So, but if you're going to tell me, you got a gun to my head, who do you trust more? Or who do you put, who are you putting your life, which quarterback are you putting your life with? I'm going to go with C.J. Stroud.
Yeah, me too.
You can't – I don't watch a whole lot of Michigan games because they're pretty boring to watch.
Not
But I
wrong there.
watched it. But I was watching the Illinois game last week, and some of the wide open throws he was missing is just you can't do that. And maybe this is a spot where maybe we see Caden McNamara. You never know.
I could see it.
If something's going bad, if it's going south a little bit, maybe they bring in McNamara. Now, granted, the same thing happened last year, though. They were able to run the ball against Ohio State, which is why they didn't really need McNamara to do anything. But that was a different defense. This Ohio State defense is much improved. I think they're ranked 10th in scoring defense this year. But Michigan, now flip side, Michigan's ranked 2nd in scoring defense now.
Yeah.
Can Michigan's defense? It feels like it's going to have to be like a field possession game, especially Michigan's offense or Michigan itself. They're going to have to somehow flip the field to help their offense out, because I can't see a spot where Ohio State is going to let Michigan just start at Michigan at their own 25, 30-yard line and just roll down the field and score touchdowns. Yeah. I just don't see it. I don't know what the weather's supposed to be like there.
I think it's only like 50 degrees. It's like 50 degrees, I think, sun.
Let me see.
Last time I checked.
Columbus, Ohio. So Saturday, it's supposed to be high of 50, but it's supposed to rain.
Yeah.
So
normal Ohio. Yeah,
right. Which means it's a low. There's possibly a low of 31. It says. So look, you might see some snow flurries. I think it's just gonna be gray and gloomy though. So
yeah.
I just can't see a spot where which quarterback's going to need to make the big throw. Give me Stroud. I think C.J. Stroud has I would say maybe a giant game, but I think he does what he needs to do. Because we still have Emmanuel. What's the guy's name? Abuka.
Yeah. That other wide receiver.
And Marvin Harrison. And Marvin Harrison is going to be a top 15 pick when he's draft eligible. He's really good.
Yeah.
Give me the Buckeyes. I think they roll.
Yeah. How I'll start is my question is going to be if they don't have Blake Corum, how are they going to move the ball? Because I don't think J.J. McCarthy is very good right now. I think he still has potential. I think he still has the potential to become better.
Yeah.
But right now, I just don't see him being able to lead the Michigan offense to a victory. Now, to be fair, I don't think Ohio State's defense is nearly as good as the numbers make them look, because they really have not played a great offense all year. The best offenses they've played are Maryland and Penn State, and for the most part, both of those teams, for a lot of the game, had their way with their defense. But
Ohio State has just those guys that can just take a game over, though, on defense.
They have freak athletes. They have a ton of freak athletes at Ohio State.
Yep.
But I don't think it's the best coached defense. I don't know who their defensive coordinator is.
It's Jim Knowles.
Yeah.
I'm going to have to disagree with you there, because Jim Knowles, he turned an Oklahoma State defense last year with a bunch of nobodies for the most part into one of the better defenses in the country, especially in the Big 12. And I think if they would have won the Big 12, they wouldn't have messed around Baylor last year. They probably would have been the 3 seed. They probably would have given Bama fits.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, they probably would have given them fits, because they had some game wreckers on that team that just the scheme that he runs just gives offenses fits for some reason.
Yeah.
Now again, like I used to say, and I'll let you continue on here, but they do tend to give up a little bit more points than they would probably like when they play some better quarterbacks and better offenses. But I do think that their defense is much improved, especially from last year.
Yeah. Well, last year their defense was terrible. Like, just straight up, they couldn't stop anybody from
They
scoring.
couldn't stop the run.
They couldn't stop the run. I mean, teams with better quarterbacks could throw the ball all over them too. They had freak athletes, but they couldn't put their athletes in place to do anything with
They
their
were getting
athleticism.
outmanned at the line of scrimmage.
Yeah, so they definitely are better defensively this year. I wouldn't qualify them right this second as like one of the best defenses in college football, just because like I said, when they do have to play offenses of a higher echelon, they do tend to follow a bend not break instead of a shutdown. So I do think Ohio State wins, and I do think they win convincingly. My question will just be: what is Jim Harbaugh going to do to put his team? Like, if they don't have Blake Corum, what's he going to do with his offense?
They're going to have to. Again, I think they're going to have to rely on field position as they're going to have their defense, which is good. They're going to have to try to turn the ball over, get the ball, create turnovers, because, again, like I said, I just don't see Michigan's offense, maybe even with Corum.
Mm-hmm.
And this is going to be the line of scrimmage because Michigan's offensive line is really good. Can they run the ball? If they can't run the ball, how do they get a sustained, just effective drives down the field? Because they're going to have to score. And that's where I think Ohio State is able. They're balanced on offense enough where they can just kind of beat you. If they need a play from Stroud, they can get you. Yeah. They can get you that. If they need to run the ball, they can get you that. And I just don't see, unless their defense has to get stops early and throughout the game and create some turnovers. They probably have to get at least 2 turnovers Saturday. And they need to score off the turnovers and not field goals.
Yeah.
But maybe they can afford maybe 1 field goal. They have to score touchdowns. And if they don't, I don't see how they can win.
Yeah. So I think we're both in agreement Ohio State should win this game.
I like Ohio State big.
I think it's less just because it is a big rivalry, and I think Jim Harbaugh knows how to play this. I think they cover. I think it's a 7-point spread, right?
7.5.
7.5. I think they cover it. I think Ohio State wins by like 3 or something. I think it ends up being a lot closer just because I don't think CJ Stroud is as good as advertised a lot of the time, just because they really don't play the best defenses. And
yeah, I think it's like a 31.
I
think it's like a.
So it just appeared for me.
I think it's like a 28 or a 27-14 game. 27-17 game. I think it might be close throughout the game, but I do think Ohio State pulls ahead. But we'll see. You there? Dylan. You hear me? 1 second, guys. You seem to be Dylan. 1 second. Dylan. Sorry for the delay. Dylan's here, but he seemed to can't hear us. Oh, it's loading on his end. Let's see. Maybe we can try to tell him to move to a different spot, guys. You hear me? Um, while he's doing that, move him.
Hello?
You hear me?
Hello?
We can hear you.
Okay, you can hear me though?
Yeah. You hear me? Hello? I'm gonna say try leaving. Sorry for the delay, guys. We just temporarily lost Dylan, but we're gonna get him back. I'm gonna send him the link. We will move on though. Sorry for the delay, like I said.
That was strange.
Oh, he's back.
Yep, I'm back.
All right, welcome back. All right, so sorry about
Thank
that,
you.
guys. On the YouTube watching, just skip ahead. All right, so we finish up that one. Turn your echo cancellation.
Yep. Oh, sorry. I actually cannot do it while we're recording. One sec. Let me turn the fan off.
We will move to the USC Notre Dame game,
Yep.
where a big game for the Pac-12, for USC, for playoff, the playoffs in general. Because if USC continues to win, they're going to win out, and if they win out, they'll be in the playoff. A Notre Dame team that started super rough, but has turned it around. And under Marcus Freeman, first year, they have done a good job, and they have a chance to be a big-time outlier. We said about it earlier with if they can win this game, it's at USC, that'll look a hell of a lot better for Clemson.
Yeah. So the biggest thing with this game is this is going to be, first of all, this is the biggest matchup between these two in years. This is the first time in years this rivalry has meant as much as it does this year. But my question is going to be, can USC's offense play a similar game to what Ohio State did to Notre Dame? In which me and you both know Notre Dame has a great defense. They have a fantastic defense, but their offense is very limited. They struggle at times to pass the ball. They don't have the best, can't run the ball the best. They're just a very limited offense. So the question is going to be, can USC just run away with it? Because if USC can get on them and score quick and score early, it's over. I think it's over for Notre Dame. How do you see it?
I would, but I would say once again, USC's defense is not good. The only thing they're good at is creating turnovers.
Yeah.
But they give up a lot of points.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of points, a lot of yards. Is Notre Dame's offense good enough to do that? We'll see. Notre Dame really, they've looked better the last couple weeks. They took care of Clemson and manhandled them. But again, that was mostly their defense. Can their defense slow down Caleb Williams, who's just rolling right now? I think at this point he's got to be the Heisman frontrunner, right?
I think he is now.
Unless Stroud goes out and drops 400 on Michigan's defense and just has a flawless game, I don't see how Williams is not the front runner. But we're gonna see. Can Notre Dame's, and this is kind of like the Ohio State-Michigan game, can Notre Dame get stops? Can they get turnovers? And can they score off turnovers and stops?
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big one. I think Notre Dame's defense is probably the best defense that USC is going to see all year. So this is going to be a fun one. I think that USC does win.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what the spread is, so.
Let me double check for you real quick. I was just looking at the game.
It's 5.5 right now.
Okay, yeah.
So they're getting under a touchdown. But I'm not surprised because USC's defense can't stop anybody.
I do think USC, probably for the second time this season, is going to cover that. Because I do think they win by a touchdown. I don't think they win by a field goal. But I do think my thing is going to be Notre Dame has not really faced an offense. So, with the games they've won, like the Clemson game, the reason they're able to score so much is less their offense and more just the other team's offenses they constantly turn the ball over. But this USC team does not really turn the ball over. They do not struggle to convert the ball, and they can pass the ball all over the field to every wide receiver. Caleb Williams is an NFL quarterback playing in a college football team.
Yes.
So I think I think USC is gonna win. I think USC wins comfortably, which by a touchdown. But I do think it's in the Coliseum too, so Notre Dame's going to be traveling across the country for the game. I do think it's going to be a sold-out environment because the Coliseum is just a better stadium than the Rose Bowl, even if the Rose Bowl is a better historic venue. The Coliseum packs better. The way it packs better. So I think it's going to be loud, it's going to be good, and I think USC wins by 7. I think they score 35-28. I think we sit around there.
Okay. I will say we saw this Notre Dame defense really shut down for the most part until late that Ohio State offense.
Yeah.
Can they do the same? That's going to be the big thing. If they can keep it close, they might be able to do something late. But again, they got to create turnovers, and I don't know how Caleb Williams doesn't turn the ball over very often. So I do think I would not be shocked if if Notre Dame covers, but I don't think they will.
Yeah, I agree with you.
I think USC wins probably because even when they're lost, Utah had to score 43. I think it's like a 40. It's like a 34. I don't know. It's like a 34-30 game, maybe 28. I don't know. It's just a weird one because if Notre Dame can get some stops and score, they can be right in this game.
Yeah.
Can they just put it for 4 quarters though?
That's a question, and I don't trust that offense.
Well, and if USC's defense, vice versa, can get stops, how worn out is that Notre Dame defense going to be for 4 quarters?
Yeah.
So that might be a factor as well. All right.
So let's move on.
Yes.
So next we'll be going on for the South Carolina Gamecocks versus the Clemson Tigers.
Yes. This is the Palmetto Bowl. At this point, so some of the rivals now, because we got most of the bigger games out of the way. This is more of a rundown-ish for the other key rivals. But we'll start, Palmetto Bowl. South Carolina, 14.5-point underdog at Clemson. Really, it's going to be can Spencer Rattler, that offense, do what they did against Tennessee? Maybe not even do what they did because they're playing a much better defense in Clemson.
Yeah.
Can they translate it to on the road? Can they take it with them? I don't know how far away they are from Clemson, but
it's like
they
70 miles maybe? Can
they replicate that against Clemson? If Clemson can kind of just control the game, this might be one of those games again where it's just Clemson kind of dominates from the start. Also, though, which Clemson offense are you going to get?
You're going to get the Clemson offense that played against Florida State, or you're going to get the Clemson offense that couldn't move the ball against Notre Dame?
Or
That's the question.
Notre Dame, how about like Syracuse?
Yeah.
Or are they going to just turn the ball over a lunch and then? Because remember that was at home too. So,
Yep.
I think this is like this might be close for maybe part of the game, most of the game.
Mm-hmm.
I think South Carolina does cover. They're getting 14.5, so you're getting two north of that second touchdown.
Yeah.
I think it's like maybe like a 31-20 game.
Okay. Yeah, I can see that. I think the bigger question for me is going to be can Clemson's defense do what, like, just comparable what like Florida did to Spencer Rattler?
They can just get pressure on him.
Yep. If you make
Kinda
Spencer
set it
Rattler,
down.
if you make him uncomfortable, he's
Georgia.
just, yeah, he just can't. He can't come back from that. So my question is going to be: is if Clemson can make him uncomfortable, then I think they roll pretty easily. But if they keep it close, I don't trust Clemson's offense to be able to make a play when they need it.
And we saw South Carolina was able to get pressure on Tennessee.
Yeah.
Let's not forget, I mean, Tennessee's no slouch offensively. They have a hell of a lot better offense than Clemson. And they held them in check when they needed to.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's going to be the biggest thing is it's going to be the South Carolina offense versus that defense for Clemson. I'm not too worried about the vice versa. I think both teams are going to get their share of points. But is Clemson just going to put the what's the word I'm looking for? Kind of just throw it in lockdown when they need to, and just take
care of business.
Yeah, are they going to just force Spencer Rattler to kind of panic and just like, oh crap, I got to throw the ball when I don't need to, and it's going to get turned over or at pick.
Yeah.
So that's going to be a big thing. Again, I think South Carolina is playing with house money right now.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that's one of the biggest wins recently in program history. Or are they just going to maybe let it down? Will they have a letdown spot here? Maybe. This could be a big-time blowout.
It could be.
I think it's not even...
Even if they get blown out, I don't think it's like a letdown for them, though, at the same time. But you go.
I was just going to say... Is this going to be like one of those games where Clemson doesn't have to score a lot of points regardless, or is their defense just going to come out early and just like shut it down early?
Yeah.
This could be like a 24-7 game where South Carolina can't do anything the entire game and they just get a late touchdown. Or are they going to be able to keep it close for the entire game and score when they need to?
Yeah.
Because they showed last week again, but Tennessee's secondary is so bad.
Yeah,
so we're going to find out. I think it's going to be a good game, but I'm really interested to see can South Carolina just carry it on the road, because we've seen when they go to hostile spots, they can't do anything. So
yeah,
they did it earlier this year in Missouri. They did it at Florida. I'm trying to think of anywhere else they did it. But we're going to see. We're going to see South Carolina looking for their first win against Clemson since 2013. So
yeah, I think it will be a close one, actually, but...
I think Clemson wins, though, but South Carolina covers.
Me too.
All right. Perfect.
All right, so...
Move on now to...
the Iron Bowl.
Yes, it's a 3:30 kick on CBS. I believe Bama is still a 21.5-point favorite.
Yeah.
Could be wrong.
I feel like it's a little high.
Yeah.
I think that's really high for where these teams are at right now.
Auburn, 1 win away. Crazy to say that from bowl eligibility. Bama, I don't know what to think of Bama from an outlook standpoint, like where they go from here. They're going to be in a New Year's Six game regardless.
Yeah.
They're not going to go to the SEC title game this year, but they got a chance to win this weekend at home. Go to 10 wins again. typically they play Auburn a hell of a lot better at home than they do at Jordan-Hare. For some reason, Nick Saban always struggles at Auburn, whereas at home they usually dominate them from the get-go.
Yeah.
I think Bama. I don't know if they can. I don't know if they'll cover that line. But
I don't think they cover.
Because their offense is not good enough to beat a team like that.
They only put up 34 on Austin P. Like they just at times look like not deficient on offense. They just look like they lack playmakers. Like they lack explosive weapons that can create mismatches.
And if you're able to shut down Jahmyr Gibbs, you're going to be in the game.
Yeah.
Let's see. Like I'm looking at the spread right now. Auburn is getting 81% of the money right now. They're 22 now is the number.
Yeah.
Bama has not been good on ATS, but neither has Auburn. They're both 5 and 6. But Auburn is 2-1 on the road this year. Bama has struggled as a double digit favorites a lot this year.
Yeah.
They didn't cover last week. They were 44.5. They didn't cover against Ole Miss. They were 11-point favorites. They were 13.5-point favorites at LSU. They didn't cover against Tennessee, obviously, because they lost. They covered against Mississippi State, though. But I think Auburn is good enough to lose by like 17.
Yeah.
I think this is like a 34-17 game. I think it's right at that 17 mark. Although to be fair, I don't know if Auburn can put up 17 against Bama's defense. So they might cover actually.
I think they.
Why not?
I think Auburn.
22 is a lot because you're getting north of that third touchdown.
Yeah, that's why I'm agreeing. I don't think Bama covers the spread this week, and
no, and maybe Auburn goes in and fucking beats them. I don't know.
I don't see that happening. If that happens, I think you give the job to Cadillac Williams on Sunday.
Right now, just give it to him after the game.
Yeah. Hold a press conference in the
You give him
parking
Saturday
lot.
night after the game.
Yes, hold a press conference in the parking lot.
You make Gary Danielson and his Alabama ass walk down there and give him the job right there.
Yeah. But yeah, I think there's not really too much to say about this game other than the outside stuff going on with Auburn, with all the rumors swirling, which we'll get into in our final thoughts. But there's really not too much to say. It's the Iron Bowl, so I think it'll be a good game, just because of the history of the rivalry, and you got a Cadillac Williams who really motivates his players to play well. So
And
I
he's
think
played
you'll
in
see
this game before.
Yeah, he's played in this game before. He's had a great game in this rivalry before. But I think it will be an entertaining watch. But I think Bama still wins by 2 touchdowns.
Yeah. I think it'd be a different game if it was at Auburn, like it was last year, because Auburn was no business being in the game last year, and they took them to 4 overtime. So, yeah, I think Auburn covers. But, yeah.
All right.
Typically, Bama does do better, though, at home, though, with these, like, medium-ish big lines. Because, like, they were 21-point favorite following that loss at Tennessee, and they were to Mississippi State, and they covered it. Because they were at home. But then they went to but see, when they're a big road favorite, they lose. They don't cover it. So, we'll move on, though. I think Bama wins, like 34-17, like I said.
I agree. I think it's going to be in that ballpark.
Yeah.
I think at half it will be close, though.
Yeah. We'll speed through some of these later games because they don't really mean a whole lot before we finish up. Oregon State Civil War. I think Oregon's getting 3. I think it's at Oregon State. Could be wrong.
Let me double check that. But I think Oregon State, because of their physicality on that defense, right?
Yeah.
I think this is going to be really close, and I would not be surprised if Oregon State won this game, at all.
Maybe we still don't know that Bo Nix. I don't think it's still 100%. I watched the game last week. He really wasn't He wasn't super effective.
It's at Oregon State.
Yeah. So He wasn't super effective last week against Utah, but their defense did what they needed to do. My dogs are barking right now. Awesome. But yeah, I think Oregon wins. I think they make enough plays down the stretch where they kind of take Oregon State out of it.
So this is probably going to be the biggest disagreement I'm going to have with you today, is that I actually think Oregon State's going to win this game for the simple reason that their defense is really good, and that crowd can take a team out. They played USC earlier this year, and they had USC on the ropes in the fourth quarter down, and they held that offense to, I think, 20 points. I think it may have been 17 actually. So if they can
they play late,
yeah,
or throw the game to get it, I just don't think they do.
But with Bo Nix not being 100%, I think I'd give the edge to Oregon State right now, personally.
Yeah. I gotta step off the screen real quick. Dylan,
you're good.
You want to?
I'll go over the last two just because there's not much to say about either of these games.
I'll say a quick thing. TCU is going to roll against Iowa State.
Yep.
And look for A&M to give one last final stand. But I think LSU wins and covers. They're a 10-point favorite. I'll be right back.
All right. So all I really have to say about either of these games is the first one, TCU versus Iowa State. TCU is this close to a playoff berth, right? So they're going to be going into this game knowing what's on the line, knowing that they cannot have a letdown spot. Sonny Dykes has his team geared up. They're going to be ready to play. And I think they're going to kill Iowa State. I think they win by 30 points plus. This is not that 2020 Iowa State team. They don't have Brock Purdy. They're no longer really not even near 6. I don't even think they're looking at a bowl game right now. I think this game is easily, by halftime, it's already put it in the books. It's over. That's all I really have to say about that one. And then moving on to A&M and LSU. I think because this game is in College Station, I think it's a 50-50 if the crowd's really going to be there at this point, because they weren't there last week against UMass. I know this is an LSU team that's top 5 right now, and you would think their fan base would really show up, but it really does feel like a large amount of the fan base has given up on this year's team. They've given up on Jimbo Fisher. They don't care, and they want him out. And I don't know if the crowd's going to be that into it. And if the crowd's not into it for A&M, with how bad their offense is, with the fact that they can't score even when the ball is handed to them. So my only thought is going to be, I think LSU kills A&M. I think it's because I was just saying is that even though it's in College Station, right?
There's nobody there.
I don't think. That's what I was saying. Is I don't think the crowd's going to matter, because I don't know how many people are actually going to show up.
They said 90,000 last week.
They didn't show up against UMass. A game in which they not only expected to win, but win big. You know what I mean? Even so,
LSU is going to destroy them, and they know they're going to try to. And I don't see a letdown either, especially a week, because next week you have the SEC title game.
Yeah.
I don't see a letdown spot. Maybe they're looking ahead because you have a really bad A&M team, and you're looking ahead possibly to that big time matchup. But like I said, I think I said this a couple weeks ago with when they were, I think, at Arkansas. They had a little letdown, but they are a 2-loss team fighting to try to get to that playoff. To the playoffs, and no 2-loss team has ever made it to the playoffs. So they're still in a shot where if they can beat Georgia, what Auburn couldn't do in 2017, it's a 2-loss team, and get in. Can they? And the committee has favored them. putting him
especially
at 5.
with this last poll, they really believe in this LSU squad. So I think
They're saying, I'm just gonna say, they're saying that, guys, if you could just win out, you're gonna be in.
Mm-hmm.
What were you gonna say?
So what I was gonna say is that I think LSU is gonna go into this game knowing what's on the line. Well, obviously there's maybe they look ahead to Georgia, but they know what's on the line. They're a 2-loss team. They know any loss is the end of the world.
100%.
So
it's survive in advance for them.
Yep.
The only thing that we'll see, I'm curious to see, because it's a 7 o'clock kickoff on ESPN.
Mm-hmm.
So is Kyle? I just want to see how invested A&M is. They're 4-7. They're not going to a bowl. Are they going to just try to? Are they going to just kind of lay it down and just? You already saw one of their top players on defense is entering the transfer portal.
Mm-hmm.
Is that what's going to happen? Or are they going to play spoiler and be like, hey, you know what, guys? It's been a rough year, but we have a shot to really cause some chaos.
Let's make some noise.
Let's get the crowd going early. Let's get them going throughout the game. Our defense is good enough, I think, to keep this LSU offense in check.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm not really worried about that. I'm worried about how many sacks is Harold Perkins and B.J. Ojolari going to get on this game. That's my – because UMass was getting pressure on him. And if UMass is getting pressure on him, God knows what's going to happen.
Oh, my.
So
I don't have anything,
Their A&M's offense is just so stagnant and just
dead.
That's a great word for it because they can't do anything.
They can't do anything at all.
So I like LSU to win.
I like LSU to win, cover.
I think they're going to win by. I think they win by almost 3 scores.
Yeah.
And they showed you last week. Last week could have been an easy, just like kind of like let's just kind of. Gets UAB. They went in, handled their business. So
So we'll move forward to our final thoughts, specifically on coaching news, because has that been hot?
Oh, 100%. I would just say any other games we want to talk about.
I don't think there's anything else really sticking out at the moment. Do you have anything specific you want to bring up?
Nope. I'm
okay.
Good there.
Only game maybe War on I-4 because I think this is the final year it is played. UCF should roll, but you never know. Brian Batty.
UCF will dominate. Tulane and UCF. Sorry, my dog. I got to grab my dog. But talk about that real quick, actually. Just a quick. The hot jumble mess, which is the Group of 5.
Yep.
Winner of this game, with both ranked game at Cincy, we'll have the insight. Well, I think we'll host the AAC title.
Yep.
And has again the inside track to the New Year's Six.
The New Year's Six Bowl. I'll just give up a quick explanation on it. So, with the Group of 6 right now, we have 3 teams in the running for possibly going to the New Year's Six. We have at 19. Let me double check that real quick for you. 19 is Tulane, 22 is UCF, and 24 is Cincinnati. So right now, one of those 3, depending on who wins this week and who wins the conference championship, is going to the New Year's Six Bowl. One of those 3. That's who it's down to at the moment. I don't think any other Group of 5 even has a shot anymore.
No, it's those 3. But which one's going to pull themselves that? Because Tulane could have done it a couple weeks ago.
And they couldn't against UCF. So,
All right, we'll move to some final thoughts, but coaching news. Dylan, I'll let you take care of it.
So we're going to start with the one that's been every single headline for the past week that nobody has been able to shut up about for a month. Specifically, the train down in Mississippi, Lane Kiffin. Now, before I go too in depth with it, the rumors to Lane Kiffin to Auburn have been nonstop for since the day they fired Brian Harsin. I think you can attest it has been nonstop. There's constantly been rumors about it. There's constantly been, information that Auburn has contacted him, contacted his people. There's interest between the two. And then on, was it Monday night, a report came out that he was going to step down on Friday and take the Auburn job. And then all of a sudden, Lane Kiffin came out and said, "No, I'm not." So, without actually saying I'm not taking the Auburn job. So we're in a weird situation in which Lane Kiffin has said
Keep
he's
talking.
not.
Yep,
you're
keep
good.
talking real quick. I'm just going to go check something real quick.
So we're in a situation in which Lane Kiffin has said he's not stepping down Friday, but he has not said, "I am not taking the Auburn job," which is a weird situation for him to be in, a weird situation for his players, for both schools involved. I think because he can't just come out and say, "I'm leaving for Auburn," this early in the cycle, he's going to put his team and his players. That's the only thing I have worried about this Egg Bowl, is if Lane Kiffin really is leaving Friday to take that job at Auburn, Alabama. I don't know how it's going to be. I think,
Don't know what you said, but go
so,
ahead.
with the Lane Kiffin to Auburn stuff, and him not denying that he's not going to Auburn, but denying the fact that he's stepping down specifically Friday to go to Auburn, I just wonder what's going on right this second.
Yeah, it's
bizarre.
It is keynoting, I guess, that he kind of like almost immediately came out, responded, saying like, I never heard that.
Yeah.
And then he started like quote tweeting it and stuff, being like trolling the guy, thinking like he was going to do that. Like, I think he stays. And I said this a couple weeks back. Bill O'Brien, it might be going there.
Yeah. I think he stays too.
I do. I think he gets offered, but I don't think he goes. I just don't see why you would want to.
I understand. The appeal is that it's a pay raise.
It is a pay raise. There's a better facilities, I think. I don't go to Auburn.
It's better
you have
facilities.
To play Bama, but you got to play Bama and Georgia every year. Mm-hmm. And what are the odds he beats them?
Low, very low.
Whereas your Ole Miss, you only got to play Bama once. So why? And your other biggest rival is Mississippi State.
Mm-hmm.
So why would you want to play? Because if you're Auburn, you got to play LSU every year, Mississippi State every year, Bama every year, Georgia every year. Why would you want to do that? That's why the Auburn job is almost like the worst job ever, but it's also could be the best job.
So yeah, Auburn's in a weird position because the job is very appealing because it's it's a big pay raise. It is an amazing spot for recruiting. It is a place where there is backing behind you and the facilities are top notch. The problem comes with the schedule and the booster situation there. So I think I understand why at a distance Lane may have been interested in the job, but I do think he stays at Ole Miss. Just because I think he's in a perfect spot where he is, where I think they could go 7-6 next year, and he's not even touching a hot seat. You know what I mean? He set the win record in a season for the school last year.
No, it's to be his second year. But actually, well, it could be.
He's
They're 8-3 right now.
Yeah.
If they win out, they could still get that second straight year of 10 wins in a row.
Yep.
And he's as good as anybody in the transfer portal. So I think, why would you want to leave a spot where you're completely in control of where you are? dominate the state. You dominate the transfer portal.
Yeah.
But it'll just see. I think we'll just quick touch the final two.
Yeah. So you can start with the Deion stuff.
So there's just rumors out there. Deion Sanders has been a name that's also been floating around for some other jobs. He's already come out and said he didn't want the Auburn job. But there's rumors that he is interested possibly at Colorado and USF. Right now he is at Jackson State. It's interesting that he's intrigued by those jobs more. And he is a very good coach. Let's not just say, like, oh, it's just his name. He knows. Like, he was one of the final candidates, and you know it more than I do, probably in the Florida State job, wasn't he?
So, I'll start right here with no.
No?
He was not, just because he can't technically, because the Florida State job requires a college diploma, and he doesn't have one. So, while even if he was wanted for the job, the board of directors wouldn't allow it. But
weird.
it's just the university policy. Anyways, so the thing with Deion is he is quite possibly the best recruiter in the country.
You know what he can do? He can go big FU to Florida State, and he went and stole Travis Hunter right from you guys.
Yep.
My only thing is, so he dominates Jackson State right now, and they're dominating in the MEAC?
SWAC.
I would think he's going to stay too, but my only thing is if he leaves, how much time are they going to give him? Because he's not going to be able to turn a program around in a year.
That's why I think he's way more interested in South Florida than Auburn. Right there.
Colorado. Yeah, because he's not going to be given the time if he went to Auburn.
Yep.
He'll be given a lot more time at USF, but if he went to USF, he would have to show improvement.
Which, quite frankly, will not be hard. That's why I do think if he takes any job, I think he takes South Florida, because they let Jeff Scott run the program for 3 years where he won 4 games in total. So, at this point, anything is an improvement. They won a single game this season. Now, Deion goes in next year, wins 3 games. There's going to be boosters praising him for bringing the program back. They won 3 games.
And he could easily bring some of his guys from Jackson State.
Yeah, and he's going to be a recruiting monster there. If he takes the South Florida job, it will be the first time in that program's history. Well, they'll probably finish with yearly top 40 classes every year, maybe even top 25 some years. Like, he's that good of a recruiter.
Yeah.
So, I do think if he takes any FBS job right in this cycle, it's going to be the USF job, because of the reasons, it's close to his home. Because, he is from Florida. It's not going to be difficult competition-wise. And you're going to be given a ton of time to build it up.
Yeah, and you're not really going to have to deal with a whole lot of competition in conference.
Yep.
So, because all the big boys are leaving.
Yep.
So, it'll be interesting to see. Now, granted, these are just rumors, so we don't know.
We don't know all the facts, but I do think there is a little bit of merit to this rumor.
Yeah. All right.
So then the final one, I brought up was, the Matt Rule has officially stated he is not going to take the Nebraska job.
Okay.
Which, from the outset, looked like he was Nebraska's number 1 candidate who they were wanting to hire more than anybody else. So my question is, where is Nebraska on their search at this point? We're coming to the end of rivalry weekend, and with the early signing period, you really want to have a head coach before conference championship weekend starts, before a bowl game, before any of that. You want a new head coach already in position to get you on, start recruiting right away, possibly bring a couple guys in, salvage the rest of your class. And if Nebraska just missed on the top guy, where are we going? Where do you think they could possibly look to hire somebody?
So I'm looking at like a site right now, just like because there hasn't been like a clear front runner of who might be possibly it.
Yeah.
There was rumors that Kalen DeBoer from Washington might be a candidate, but he just got a contract extension. Let's not forget, Mark Stoops just got locked up till 2029 at Kentucky. Apparently there was rumors that he actually had signed it already, but when they were going to announce it after the Vanderbilt game, but they lost. And so they just waited to announce it, and then after the Georgia game, regardless. So he's gone because there was rumors there. Lance Leipold, remember, just got locked up.
Yep.
Like, all of these guys that are close to Nebraska are gone.
Yeah, the biggest one was the Matt Rule, right? Because he coached at Baylor. He's a guy who, even if he doesn't recruit the best, he can get good schemes out of under, the radar players, which would have been perfect for Nebraska at this point because, quite frankly, the Nebraska name isn't the biggest recruiting jump as it once was. So, if you're them, I think the biggest one that sticks out to me is going to be the Matt Campbell at Iowa State.
Okay.
But I think that's not a bad hire, but I think that's them sitting here going, we whiffed on all the guys we actually wanted. And we need to make a hire.
I think... Matt Campbell, I don't really see what's so special about it. But I would say the two guys that I just saw on the site about him, and I hadn't really even thought about it. So there's Bronco Mendenhall, who was the Virginia coach for a long time, or for a while.
Yeah.
He's not bad.
No, he's not bad.
Just at Nebraska, though, you're just looking for consistency at this point. You know there's a rebuild having to happen.
Mm-hmm.
Can you get the recruits? Can you get kids to buy in and go there? And understand that, listen, it may not be pretty at first, but we're just trying to compete to get better and eventually be back to where we used to be. So I think Bronco Mendenhall's one who had Virginia looking decent, looking good.
Yeah.
Because right now they don't.
No, they don't.
Another one
they
to also think about is he hasn't been locked in yet. Luke Fickle. Possibly one.
I could see it.
They haven't locked him in yet. He's done a hell of a job at Cincy. Maybe wanting ready because there was reports that he was thinking they were trying to maybe get him at Notre Dame. But it's interesting that Cincy hasn't done anything yet with him. So maybe see possibly if he wants to move off and go to a bigger spot. Because he's done a good job with Cincy. So that's all I really have. Luke Fickle might be a sleepy.
That's it. I'm taking a peek too just to see.
Yeah.
So the only other candidates that's really looking at is I guess people are saying Washington and Kalen DeBoer and Lance Leopold, but both of those guys just signed extensions.
Yeah, they just got signed.
I think
locked up.
They're looking at the bottom of the barrel right now. Like they're sitting here we whiffed on everybody.
I think it's not even bottom of the barrel. It's who's willing to take that job.
Yeah.
Because it's Nebraska. They're in the middle of really nowhere in the Midwest. You have to go really out of state to compete with all these other big time schools to get recruits in. And if you're a high schooler, are you willing to with knowing you have the transfer portal though, are you willing to buy in to that? To know that, listen, it may not be pretty at first, but do I want to put myself in a spot where am I going to succeed here? Or would I rather going on to a better school, maybe not play a whole lot, maybe my first or second year, but get in and dominate. So,
yeah.
I'll throw a quick couple best bets in unless you had anything else to say, and then we'll end the pod.
Nope, I think I've got everything through. I'm just sitting reading through some of the coaching stuff.
Yeah. We'll get into that more later down the road.
Yeah.
But quick couple best bets for me this week. South Carolina plus 14.5. Hammer it. UNC minus 6.5. It's Friday night. They got NC State. Look for North Carolina to bounce back. They're at home. It's a rivalry game. I think getting it under the touchdown, under that 7, is big. Hammer that. Ole Miss, if you're looking at it, lean the 2.5. I think they bounce back. UF plus 9.5. I think we talked about that. If you want, maybe keep an eye on it though. Maybe it possibly maybe gets a little bit bigger. Ohio State minus 7.5. Like we said, I think they roll. And I think the final one, I haven't really looked at a whole lot of the other spreads. LSU minus 10, A&M, hammer it.
Yeah.
And I think if you're also looking to make an extra buck or two, I'm just looking at some of the lines here. Look for UCLA to bounce back minus 10 at Cal.
Yeah,
Friday
I agree
night.
with you.
Friday night
Friday against a bad Cal team.
Yeah.
So
Look for in the final one. I'll say just look for try to find any underdogs maybe to cover. If you're willing to put Auburn lay the money, I would stay away from that one though.
I would be wary. I would be very wary on that one.
Maybe because Utah is going to destroy them. Utah is a 29.5 point favorite this weekend against Colorado. Kansas plus 11.5. Think about it. That's the only other one. So
It's not bad.
no, not a horrible line. Not a horrible batch this week, but you got to dig deep to find the winners.
Yeah.
So that's all we got this week, guys. This was it was a bigger pod than maybe we might have liked, but
We had to get a lot of
holiday
information in.
Holiday weekend in.
Yep.
It was a big weekend, so we'll bounce back Sunday probably.
We'll be back
For
with
a
our
recap,
reaction pod.
Sunday. Yeah, Sunday or Monday. But when we do, we'll get it back on YouTube. Make sure that you guys really just, even if you just are here to watch a little bit of the episode, just hit the like and subscribe button. It really helps out.
Really helps us a
Leave
lot,
us your
actually.
comments.
Yeah.
If you guys want us to talk about some stuff more than others, we need that feedback.
We'll
We're
take
trying
everything.
our best right now to get it on Spotify and some of the other platforms. We're still looking at that. But right now, for the most part, all the videos and stuff are going to be on YouTube at Knowles and Dogs Podcast.
Yep.
Just hit that like and subscribe button when you can. That really does help.
All right.
Yeah. All right. So let's have a great Saturday. Happy Thanksgiving to all you guys, whatever you're watching.
Yes, sir.
And let's have a great week.
All right. We'll see you guys on Sunday.
Peace out.